we have tonight with the selectmen, and hopefully just one more Thursday to get through this. And I think that, you know, everybody's had an opportunity to hear from our department heads. We have some more here tonight. And under that heading, though.
Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes, I'm going to read. Thank you. I know. I always, you know, my brain and my mouth, there is a disconnect. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if tech problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. Viewers can visit thelocalscene.media/Duxbury, formerly pac-tv, to watch a video replay of this meeting on Duxbury YouTube. Thank you, friend.
I'll call the meeting of the Select Board to order, please. Thank you.
All done? As I was streaming consciousness here, but as I was saying, you know, we have tonight's department heads, and then we have next week, and then we should be able to conclude the review of this part of Article 5B.
What's next week, Betsy?
Pardon me?
What is next week?
Fixed costs and...
The next week is going to be at 7 o'clock because we need to get pushed back a half hour.
On Thursday?
On Thursday. I know. It's so fun, right? But that is the saying. I have had a couple of people mention to me, and I think rightly so, that the first week that we did this might not have been our most orchestrated event. And we're just trying to figure this out, get the information to the public. And the schools were then invited to share and do their presentation. We really did not give them much notice, if any, that they would be presenting that first night. And I just want to say that I think the superintendent did an amazing job. I was somewhat oblivious to the fact that they really hadn't had time because she did such a great job, had all the answers in the presentation, but I do feel as though it should be mentioned that they did not get the notice that the other departments had to do their presentation, and kudos to them for being able to just get up and deliver their message in such a great way. Okay, so off we go to the races, Mary.
Okay.
Yep, all set.
All right, so I think the first one is Council on Aging. So I'm going to pull up a presentation here. Give me 1 second, if you would.
All right, thank you everyone for having me here tonight. And we are going to talk about the Council on Aging budget, affectionately known as the Senior Center. Most people don't know us as the Council on Aging. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is our services, our challenges, and the reason why we're asking for an override. Mary, next slide. So before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about our mission, which is to empower older adults to age well, engage in the community, and enrich their lives. Next slide. And we do this by providing essential services to the community. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our programs and services. We are the second educational campus in the community, and we offer a wide array of programs and services. We offer educational, recreational, health and wellness. We have a great lifelong learning program. We have travel programs and fitness. Last year, we offered 5,051 different programs, and we had 32,275 registrations for our classes. Needless to say, we are booming. Our transportation services, we offer daily and medical transportation. And so I'm feeling like this is my PR thing for anyone who doesn't know what's going on at the Senior Center. We just want people to know. We offer daily and medical transportation. Daily transportation takes you anywhere, to the grocery store, to the post office, to town hall, to the library, out to visit a friend, out to have lunch. And we do medical transportation. And we provide services in Duxbury, Kingston, Marshfield, Pembroke, and Plymouth. Thanks to the Friends of the COA, those rides are free of charge. Our goal is to make sure older adults stay independent. We also have a social day program for people living with Alzheimer's disease. We offer that program 225 days a year, and we offer a 6-hour program for people living with Alzheimer's disease, and we provide respite for their family caregiver. This past year, we provided information and referral to 383 different family members. That could be someone living in Duxbury, or they may live far away and are concerned about their loved one living in town. We have an amazing volunteer program. We have 204 volunteers, and they gave 13,535 hours of service. That's equivalent to 7 full-time employees. And if you walk in our building anytime, any day, you will see a volunteer in every aspect of our service. And then our nutrition program, and this is really where I'm going to focus my attention because this is where we need your support. We deliver home-delivered meals to the community, on-site meals, and grab-and-go meals. Last year, we prepared 21,508 meals. Next slide, Mary. So I'm not going to really focus on our salaries tonight because just to let everyone know, 60% of our salaries come from our town, but 40% come from outside sources such as grants, our Friends organization, and our revolving account. When we looked at our budget, we knew we had 2.5% to work with, and we worked ourselves backward. So like every other department, we went line by line on our expense budget, cut everything we could, and are at our bare bones. We've streamlined everything we could. We've eliminated all of our training and education for staff, and we moved everything we could to our food line item. And even by doing that, we still don't have enough money to provide the food for older adults in the community. Next slide, Mary. And the reason why is the older population is growing. And you have probably heard that from almost every department that has been in so far. And what we affectionately call this is the silver hair tsunami. You may or may have not heard about that in the past. And the older population is going to continue to grow till 2035, and then it's going to level off. So you're going to see a continued growth in the senior population. Next slide, Mary. So as I said, I really want to focus our conversation tonight on our food service program. If you look at the numbers, and hopefully they're clear enough for you, I have readers on so I can't see them, but I can see them on my script down here. We've seen a huge increase in our food service program. And every year the number continues to increase, and it probably will continue to do so as that population continues to grow. So just to give everyone a little bit of history, in 2002 when this program started, and we were way ahead of the curve preparing meals on site, we served 7,500 meals. This year we're expected to serve 26,254 meals. That's a 250% increase in our service. So more seniors, more food, more need, and we are meeting that need. Our concern becomes, without an override, we will be unable to provide meals to all the residents who need them. We'll have to eliminate meals associated with our special programs. And we'll talk a little bit. A meal is more than just a meal. And we'll have to reduce the number of days our cafe is open. Next slide. So our food service program is necessary, and like I said, a meal is more than a meal. For our home delivered meals clients, so that's someone who's just home from the hospital, maybe recovering from surgery, maybe a family caregiver, maybe someone with glaucoma and really shouldn't be cooking anymore, we provide that meal. It ensures that an older adult gets a nutritious meal once a day. It eliminates the need for them to go shopping. Sometimes that's just not possible based on a health condition. It also, thanks to our amazing volunteers, it's a social connection. The days that those meals get delivered, it's friendly visits, and it's also a well-being check. So I'm your volunteer, I deliver the meal. Mary's always dressed, today she's not. I come back and let the staff know that I'm a little concerned. Mary didn't seem like herself. And then we follow up. It also makes sure that older adult can stay in their home, alleviating the burden of having to cook and helping them to live independently. And that's what everyone really wants to do. They want to stay in their home and they want to be independent. Next slide, Mary. And our cafe program is just as important. It also provides a nutritious meal for those people who come on site. It provides socialization and friendship among our community. It provides a wraparound service. So people come for an exercise class and they stay for lunch. They go to Lifelong Learning, meet a friend, come down and have lunch. They just make plans to be with others. Mahjong comes in, has lunch, and goes plays cards. So it's all about being with other people. The other thing it does, it reduces loneliness. I don't know if you've read anything from the Surgeon General, but being lonely is like smoking 15 cigarettes. It's eventually going to kill you. We don't want that to happen. It also provides access to other services such as screening. We have health screenings and lawyers on site, and we're here to help in any way we can. And the most important thing, it provides social opportunities. The goal is to have fun here. It is the second educational campus in town, but there are no tests. So this is the place you want to be. So next slide. So an override for us, really, as we looked at the budget, what we need is we need to turn our part-time cafe coordinator into a full-time position. Like I mentioned earlier, we have much funding from other sources, and we'd be able to fund that position through our Title III funding and our formula grant. What we're looking for the town to support is the benefits. And the benefits will cost roughly about $17,000 a year. And then we're also looking for $21,500 for our food service line item so that we can purchase food for this very important program. So if the override is approved, we are requesting $38,500. I know one question people might be wondering, is there a fee for services for our program? Many of our programs do have fees. If we pay someone else, and we charge a fee for the program. There is a charge for our food service program, and that money goes back into the general fund. So in closing, this has really been an interesting learning project, and coming here every week and listening to my colleagues, and I have to say I've been so impressed with what I've learned about how hard everyone works and how hard they've worked on these budgets. And what I think, when I look at the town of Duxbury, people move here for the schools and the rural character, but they stay here because of the programs, the services, and the dedicated employees. And I hope you'll support this override. Questions?
Thank you, Joanne. Nicely presented. Thank you.
Anybody in the audience have any questions for Joe?
I have some questions.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't see. Sorry, Ann.
Thank you, Joanne. The programs sound great. I do have some questions about the costs.
Sure.
So for the people who are having their meals delivered, is there a cost for that?
There is a cost associated with that, and then we also receive funding from our Title III, $3 reimbursement for each meal, and then older adults pay for the meal as well.
Okay, and then there's also a cost for the meals that you purchase at the cafe.
Yes.
Can you give me an idea of the revenue of the money that is being brought in? Is it fair to say that it's $21,500 short of what, that's the deficit, and that's why you're...
So that's the deficit in the amount of money in our food line item. So at the end of the year, so we cover all the costs associated with the food and the food supply, and that money goes back to the general fund.
So I guess my feeling is I'm trying to understand why the cost to the person purchasing doesn't cover the cost of these services.
My understanding that let me just clarify
sure.
the point, right, Joanne? So any money that comes in, whether through fees or meals or covering the costs, goes to the general fund. It's a bit like the ambulance, right? The fees for the ambulance don't cover the cost, they go to the general fund. Any fees that we get for the beach, for instance, goes to the general fund. It doesn't go to his account to cover his expenses.
Right.
So I guess my question
Yeah.
is, are the costs that we are bringing in for these services covering the cost?
Of the food and food service
Yes.
line, yes, it does.
It does,
It
okay.
does. And just so, we do kind of, I hate to say price matching, but our comparable towns that are all accredited senior centers as well, Situate, Marshfield, and Plymouth, we check it to make sure we're in line with their food service program, and we are.
So is there an ability to increase the cost of, to the users to cover this instead of, so where my concern lies here is that we're asking people that maybe don't use it, they will eventually use the senior center. I think people who stay here long enough all will, I get that. But maybe some seniors who aren't utilizing that and to have to pay when they're not really utilizing the services. So I want to just be
So I guess I
aware.
would say it's money in, money out. Maybe I'm not explaining it well. So we receive, and I'm just going to say $90,000 for food and food service supply. At the end of the year, $90,000 plus dollars goes into the general fund to cover that supply. So we're not running at a deficit.
It's a break even.
It's a break even. So why the 21.5 in food supplies and professional
So
development?
I was
It's-
going to say, so what's happening is the senior population is growing, the number of people who come on site is growing, so I need additional money in that line item to handle the growth that we are experiencing. But as that growth happens and more people come on site, we'll be able to put that money back into the general fund.
I
Does
see.
that make sense?
Okay, yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Amy, the senior center is one of our profit centers.
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to make sure that that information is out there. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
If revenue's coming in that exceed the costs, then it's a no-brainer.
I think that the point has always been so that it was balancing, and in order to have the food to feed, to prepare these extra meals, she's got to have enough in her budget to cover it,
Right.
because money out, money in, it's, yeah.
Right.
So we've watched this, and Joanne has more grants, more volunteer hours. Do you send your report at the end of the year with the, showing that to the selectmen? You can see that she's unbelievable. I mean, the number of volunteer hours and the people that are here volunteering their time, it's amazing. And they don't look for anything other than a smile.
I think we're aware, again, just
I know, I
since
just wanna
this is part of
reiterate, yeah.
educating
Sure.
the public, I just wanted to make sure that we dove into it a little bit.
Oh, yeah, we do
Good
every
point.
year.
Can I add
Thank you,
just,
Joanne, for all the work that you and your volunteers and employees
And
do.
our staff,
It's terrific, yeah.
amazing staff.
Yep, Mayor Secretary. Mary, did you have a question, or?
nope, fantastic job. I'm going to throw a little wrinkle out for you guys, because in the omnibus budget worksheets that Rainey handed out that we're working from, the cost of the benefits that Joanne just described tonight, that's $17,000. Right now, it is sitting on the line item for the Council on Aging, but as you heard, it's for the benefits, and our benefits are actually lower in the budget in the fixed cost section. So what's going to happen is, now that Joanne has presented it, I'm going to move that $17,000 out of her department and into the health insurance line. I left it in her department, so it was a placeholder, so that it was there for discussion, but I'm going to end up moving that when we go to prepare our final numbers for the warrant. Does everybody understand that? Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Any questions from the audience? I thought I had saw somebody before, but all set? Okay. Great, great. And next on the agenda,
Do you want to do the food services?
what is it?
Well, I call it.
Oh, yep. It's nice to see you, Mr. Are you speaking, or who's speaking to the veteran services tonight? Anybody?
I am.
You are? Okay, because I saw Mr. Thorpe there.
Yep.
Blast from the past.
It's always good to see you, Mike. With respect to the Veteran Services line, the change that you'll see occurs on line 65 under expenses. you'll notice that it's a reduction from 110,300 to 98,715. That's a change of $11,000 and $11,585. And that's a result of Sarah having moved a number of the people receiving veterans benefits from the state program to the federal program. And as a result, she was able to maximize the benefits for them, and with that came a savings. So that's pretty much the only change.
But it's not part of the override. It's part of our, it's in the.
It's a good
Correct.
story. It
Yeah.
shows that the department heads are always working to
Yeah,
make
no,
their
that's-
efficiencies.
Yep.
But
Really
that,
good.
that department head has left.
Yes, sadly, Sarah is no longer employed here. She works for the town of Kingston. However, I'm going to be speaking with my counterpart over there, the town administrator in Kingston, to see if we can do a,
Share.
District.
yes, a district. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for.
Something I strongly encourage, Mr. Town Manager.
I know you do.
All
Me
right.
too.
And Betsy, you mentioned Mike Thorpe. Mike is the former Veteran Service Agent. He is going to be temporarily stepping back into the breach to keep the lights on until we can get this district thing taken care of. So Mike, thank you very much in advance
Absolutely.
for
Thank
your
you,
hard
Mark.
work.
It's good to have you back on board.
I just thought you missed us.
That too, right, Mike?
Does anybody have any questions for us or for Mike or select board? Anybody? Okay, it's pretty straightforward. All right, very good. So our library is back. Thank you. This has been about the 19th time you've come to present to us this year, and I appreciate the fact that every time your trustees are here with you, and you've been very helpful on that. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with you about the library budget. I am Lester Lloyd. I'm chair of the Duxbury Free Library elected Board of Trustees. With me, our Board of Trustees Vice Chair, Martha Dennison. Board of Trustees Secretary, Lucy Wildbrenner. And Denise Garvin, our Director. Denise, would you start us off with our slides?
Sure.
If we could have the next slide. All right.
Well, thank you for having us here tonight. As you know, when we create the budget for the library, we not only have to take into account our responsibility to the town, but also our municipal appropriation requirements mandated by the state in order to retain our certification with the Board of Library Commissioners. So we're going to go into more detail about the MAR a little bit later, but in order to understand the budget we submitted, it's important for you to know that because of the way the MAR formula works, we had an opportunity to make budget cuts for FY26 that would create space for responsible and sustainable growth in the coming years. So you can see here that we submitted an option 1 budget that was actually a 1.66% decrease over this current year. And this budget option was in line with state requirements. The further cuts taken by the town manager to create a balanced budget eliminated our Sunday hours. And so the impacts of that budget, the balanced budget, would be that we would have to cancel our Sunday Arts and Culture series, which has been a cornerstone of our programming for over 20 years and is a key driver for the Friends of the Library fundraising and membership drives. Sunday is a popular day to come to the library, and in fact, visits have been going up an average of 10% over the last 4 years. And in spite of our very careful budgeting to the MAR, with the loss of this salary funding, our budget then would fall below what's required to stay in compliance, and we'd find ourselves in a waiver situation with the Board of Library Commissioners.
Okay, and then the next 2 slides are going to illustrate the savings and the creativity that the library's already shown and you can see from this one, we have 928 volunteer hours, which quantified is about $36,368 in salary savings, which is roughly equal to a 19-hour staff member. You'll also see on this that, going back to that Sunday Arts and Culture, Culture series, that the Friends of the Library donate 80 hours because they host those series. So we've already made quite significant savings in our volunteer hours. And then on the next slide, you'll see that we also have significant grant and supplemental income, mostly coming from the Ink Board and the Friends of the Library. So our requests are all based on a budget that's already included volunteer and supplemental income.
So then, when we focus on the override for us is based on basically two items, right? We're seeking to restore those Sunday hours. That's $33,000. And we're looking to add a children's librarian to our staff. With those two items, our library budget would increase less than 2.5%. So even with those items, we're at 2.34% increase. And we understand every dollar is special, every dollar is important, and Denise is going to take a couple minutes to talk about why. The Sunday hours, I think, is clear, and we talked a little bit about it, but we can talk more, and the children's librarian. So we didn't put the children's librarian in our option 1 budget because we understand adding staff is a significant conversation that we wanted to have. But we could have, in theory, because it was a 2.5% increase in option 1. But we're trying to be responsible and thoughtful, and so we welcome the conversation to have the children's librarian. So that's the totality of the override for us, of those two items. Next slide.
So you can see here what are some of our key performance indicators, and that's reference questions, program attendance, and library visits. The library visits continue to recover from pre-COVID times, right? And we're focusing on ways to make the library more welcoming and inclusive for people of all ages. Our reference questions are back up, and total program attendance has surpassed what it was before COVID. So we're hitting all of our long-range plan benchmarks, and we're offering curated programming based on community input, and we're providing the type of reference services that people need, especially assistance with technology. All right, so there's a lot of information on this slide, and we'll try to walk through it together. Now that our services, visits, and engagement have returned to pre-COVID numbers, we're asking to restore the full-time children's librarian position that we lost in 2020. Between programming, weekend programming, and outreach to Chandler School are currently beyond our capability, but they are services that are vital to young children. Restoring 40 professional hours would significantly increase morning and afternoon programming for families and increase our ability to provide outreach beyond the school campus. So you see two charts there, one on top of the other. They show, the top one shows our current staffing level, and the bottom one is with the additional 40 children's librarian hours. So the green squares are existing programs. On Mondays we have music and movement, and on Thursday we have 2 back-to-back story times. That's it for consistent children's programs. That's all we can do right now. All the orange squares are where we have single desk coverage. So there's one person in the children's department helping everybody who comes in. That's really, they can't run a program and be on the desk at the same time. So that's really limiting for us. The blue squares are where we do have double coverage, and those are our opportunities to add extra programs, but we have to keep into account, too, that's also the only time the librarians have to plan programs, to read book reviews, to order the books, and it's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes. So And the black squares are where we have no staff in that room at all.
What, no lunch?
No staff.
No lunch?
No one. We don't have anyone. We have a sign. It says, go to another department if you need help. So then you can see on the chart below with the children's librarian added in, it more than doubles our blue squares. So there's definitely more programming opportunities. It's pretty easy to see what an improvement it would be, right?
Denise, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Would this also from your slides, it makes it be more school calendar based, but I think, didn't you had indicated that this would help us in the summer as well and vacation to provide some more opportunities for children's programs?
Absolutely.
Especially in the
yeah.
summer.
This would be, right, year
That
long.
was a softball.
She knew that.
No, answer. I know, but I don't think everybody else might know. About this summer, this would allow you to do more summer programs and more interaction with the kids.
Yeah, it would allow us to do more after-school programs. We can get off campus, we can go to Chandler. We can come over here more. We love to come over here and do intergenerational programming. So it'll pretty much double our ability to add in programs during the times when people really need them. Right now, we're doing programs for kids who aren't in school, for the little kids, and for moms who are stay-at-home moms. If we can add programs in the evening hours and on the weekends, then we're addressing the needs of everybody in the community.
Denise, what about, I'm sorry, Fernando.
Okay, just a quick question, right? Make sure I heard correctly. You said that this children's librarian would actually be a restoration? This person was let go, or that position disappeared during the COVID 2020? So you're not really adding to your headcount, you're actually restoring a
We're
headcount
restoring.
that was reduced
Right.
during COVID times?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
When we were having trouble with the MAR and going
Yeah.
back and forth, the library and the trustees
Yes.
were being very mindful of that, had made some cuts to
Yeah.
their staffing at that point in
Yeah.
time, but did not remove the positions, merely did without
Yeah.
because of circumstances.
Yep.
Denise, would this cover or increase more of the adult programs as well?
It does have that potential because it'll be another person in the building that can, we do move people from department to department and we back each other up on the desks. So sure, it's one more person who could go sit on the reference desk if we need them to free somebody up there.
And I know that you and Joanne work closely together with the senior centers and the adult programming. And does that kind of get shared activities both on this campus as well as up at the library campus? Is it kind of an interchangeable?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You mentioned that without this, you'd be out of compliance with some library board.
Feel bad for that.
Maybe that's the next slide. We can talk about the next
Yeah.
slide.
Okay, but what does that mean exactly? Would that imply you'd lose other funding from other sources?
Well, the potential for that would be there. So we would have to file a waiver, and as long as the cut to the library is not a disproportionate cut relative to other town departments, we would be okay. You have 5 years to rectify that, but we've learned from experience how hard it is to dig yourself out, because the state continues to base their formula on the money you should have received, not what you did receive. So if you were on the board 5 years ago, you're sick to death of this, right? The intention of making the decrease to our option 1 budget was because we had that opportunity that is rare to be able to take cuts and still be in line with the state's requirements. Usually you're just building and building and building. But here was our chance for a reset. We talked about a reset so much 5 years ago. This is our opportunity to do it. And Martha has more to add. I wasn't going to do this.
You did a great job. So you can see the numbers here, Chuck. And I think Denise explained it well. So the MAR, the municipal appropriation requirement from the state requires that the budget increase 2.5%. It ends up being it's an average of 3 years though, when they calculate it. And so we did find ourselves in an opportunity this year because of the reclassification increase, the effect of that on our budget. Our average and our average 3 years affected the MAR so that the MAR was less than, you can see it's 1.525248 for next year. And that's less than our current budget is. So it gave us an opportunity where would normally, in a normal year, if we asked for a new staff person, and that salary increase would be a very significant increase to our budget. And that would then compound on the MAR. But this window of opportunity that we had would allow us to put a salary in the budget without blowing up the MAR. And in fact, it keeps it at a very reasonable rate. And you can see in these options, in the option 1 budget, we're below the MAR, and so we're at risk at the state of not meeting the MAR, having to file for the waiver. And then next year, we'd have to have a 3.5 or 3.25%, I think it is, increase to our budget in order to get back in compliance, right? And that's where we were a couple of years ago, where we had to file waivers several years in a row, and we were digging out to get on the right side of the MAR. And that's where we are now. With the override budget, we can accomplish our desires, accomplish our needs with the staffing, and then also put ourselves in a square position with the MAR so that next year we're not catching up, we're not forced to do anything. We are where we'd like to be, which is in control of our budget, looking at our budget the way we want to fund our budget and not worried about, the state breathing down our necks, right? And, not for nothing, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the MAR. That's not how my colleagues feel, generally speaking, but I don't like the state telling us how to fund our library, where to spend our money. That's not my preference. But the reason the MAR exists is for situations like this, right? Because when towns have budget crises, the easiest thing to do is to cut the library budget, right? So I don't think that that's anything. I just want to point out that is what's going on here, and the state will look at that, right? In this case, obviously, Duxbury's struggling mightily, and so we'll get a waiver because we're not getting any kind of disproportionate cut, right? The balanced budget is cutting everywhere. But that is the purpose of the MAR. That's where it came from, right? To try to protect libraries when there's municipal budget crises. Does that make sense? I know you weren't here for this whole going through the MAR many times years ago when we got deep.
I like that, going through the MAR.
That's what
We all went through the MAR. We all went through the MAR. But you all worked really hard, and we did get through it. So it's nice to see it resolved.
Stay on
We can
that side.
get there. Any questions from the select board on this? Anybody in the audience have any questions?
Do you,
got your
do
last
you,
one.
they still have another slide.
One more slide.
I'm sorry, what?
They have one more
One
slide.
more slide.
Oh, one more slide. I keep trying to, I keep thinking you're done. Here, you can move over here too. Oh,
Well-
that'd be good.
Looking to the future for a moment, we are refining our strategic planning. As you can see from our numbers, as you have seen, we are offering materials, resources, and programs that the community asked for. Now we want to capitalize on this successful model for the library by changing the time frame of our long-range planning from 5 years to 3 years. Moving to a 3-year strategic plan period gives us more relevant information to drive our services and annual budget. This will allow us to move quickly to meet Duxbury's needs, to better focus our efforts, and to better connect with the community. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you.
You're here.
So is it done now? Okay. Lester was the closer. Lester, good close. Excellent close from Lester, okay. All right,
Can I
beautiful.
ask-
Thank you so much.
I'm
for-
sorry,
again,
can I-
Do you have a question, Mary?
I do. Can I impose on Lester for one moment?
Yes.
Would you be able to share with the group the investment that we have made in the last several months with respect to the lighting over at the library? Because when we talked about your budget last year, one of the things that you guys had focused on was the cost of utilities, and wanting to be able to become more efficient and reduce those costs to the greatest extent we can. So we were able to find some net metering credit funding in order to facilitate that. So would you mind sharing?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, thank you
Thank
for
you.
asking that question. So yes, we were able to change out all of the lighting in the library. Right now, our electric budget runs around 85,000 a year. It's the largest single line item after salaries for library expenses. And through the Commonwealth's program of energy improvement, we were able to change out all the lighting to energy efficient fixtures, which has two elements to it. Number one, the custodians spend a tremendous amount of time and cost replacing bulbs constantly, and we won't have to do that for a decade. Secondly, of course, there's a large anticipated savings in the electricity cost. The cost of the improvement was around $100,000 with a 3-year payback in terms of return by reducing the electric consumption. We're actually tracking that consumption. Now, of course, it won't really be a 3-year payback. If electricity goes up every 10,000 every year, why, you're not going to make it in 3 years. But if rates stood the same, we anticipate a 3-year payback. So, and the lighting is also very pleasant. Everyone's really happy. The installers were great. So it's been a major improvement that the town has really been helpful to create.
Thank you. Great. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks. There you go. Stephen, are you next, sir?
I believe so.
All right.
Steve, did you want me to use your previous presentation?
That sheet with the,
I'm sorry.
One moment.
Which one?
the one that you sent the other day. Just that,
Okay, you don't want to use your PowerPoint from before.
I don't need to now, just
Okay, so let me find that.
if you'd like me to go through that, that's fine. I don't know if it was, I didn't think it would be necessary.
Whichever you prefer.
And Mary, I do have that to go through if you'd like to. It's not an issue.
I think it'd be a good idea for.
Sure.
There's quite a lot in your budget that you've asked for increases, so
Absolutely.
I think if you have prepared something
Sure.
to help the conversation, I think it'd
Yeah,
be a good
Mary,
idea.
then if you want to do that, that'd be great.
Let me just find the sharing option.
Thanks, Denise. Have a good night.
Is that it? So I only have it in PDF, I don't have it in slide deck, so I can't get rid of the borders around there.
That's fine. Is that good? Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
We're good.
Okay, great, thank you. My name's Steve Studley, I'm the Recreation Director for the town of Duxbury. Before I do go into this, though, if I could just briefly thank and say, without every other department in this town, and I don't want to miss somebody, but police, fire, facilities, harbor master, the mechanics, our department as a whole just couldn't function. We rely on those guys completely, so I do want to really thank them for everything they do for us, and their support is invaluable to the Recreation Department in all of our budgets. So if we want to go through this, we can go to the next slide, please. What does recreation mean to the town of Duxbury? It just lists a bunch of everything we do, and here's what we think is that recreation equals quality of life in the town of Duxbury. There's a list up on the screen of certain events, and functions that we offer. You can read through whether it be the pool, swim teams, the fourth grade swim, the playing fields, the beach, the golf course, all sorts of things. But we really feel that people that live in Duxbury, recreation is a huge part of their lives. Next slide, please. Here's just a list of some of the departments and their functions. You can see up there, those are all budgets that we run and that I will go through. Next slide, thank you. That's just an inventory of all of our resources, whether it be the ball fields, courts, playgrounds, etc., all of things we either schedule, permit, or help maintain. Next slide, please. Here's our current staffing and service level. There's the recreation director, which is myself. We have our assistant recreation director is Loretta Doyle. Her chief charge is the revolving fund, which I'll discuss when we get to the budget. We currently have 2 full-time aquatics, an aquatic supervisor and an aquatics manager who oversee many lifeguards. The number up there is 25. That can be as many as 40 throughout the course of the year. Our beach operations manager, we currently right now have 1 full-time person running the beach. There's approximately 45 beach rangers that he oversees, as well as 8 to 10 beach lifeguards. We have a principal assistant within the department as well, and then hundreds of seasonal staff and volunteers. Next slide.
Before you go,
Sure.
before we move that slide, so the bottom line is there's only 6, you have 6, there's 6 staff, including you in your organization, right? Permanent.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Correct.
Correct. And the rest are all seasonal, depending on activity.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And volunteers.
And volunteers.
Okay, budget. These are the 5 budgets that I oversee and help manage. There's the recreation, there's beach operations, beach lifeguards, North Hill, and the pool. Those are 5 budgets that we will go through. However, I thought it was important to add the rec revolving as well as the Ellison Fund, because those are also 2 major components of the recreation department. The rec revolving is what Loretta, the assistant director, is in charge of. That's all our year-round programming. Money comes in, money goes out to fund the programs, and at the end of the year, any surplus we return to the general fund. Last year, we returned just over $57,000 to the general fund through our revolving fund. The Ellison Fund was a gift given to the town, accepted at the 1990 town meeting by the Ellison family of $300,000, which is then invested through the Treasury Department. And each July, I get given a number, which is the interest that money accrued, and I'm charged to spend half of that on upkeep of the Ellison playground, the other half to a worthy town project that myself, along with a couple other department heads, create a list that I then present to the trustees of the Ellison Fund, and then they select the project that they'd like me to go forward with. Last year is the first time in my 26 years that we used all of the funding at the Ellison Playground, because I and the trustees agreed it was a worthy project. We started the process of ADA impact zone using poured rubber as opposed to wood chip mulch that we've had down there. The feedback since that's been put in has been amazing, and I can't wait to hopefully moving forward phase it in and eventually have the entire playground accessible by that poured rubber. Next slide. Here we go. I spoke already of the rec revolving fund, which is self-funded. You can see right there the numbers. I guess my guess was close. Just almost $58,000 returned to the general fund, and those are many of the programs that contribute to that fund. Next slide. All right, and I'm gonna, because I'm far away, go to my sheet. So right here with the recreation budget, this budget is basically 3 full-time employees, which is the rec director, the assistant director, and the department assistant, as well as a $100 a month mileage stipend. The expenses on that are very low. The only real increases we looked for in this was a couple $100 that reflects the increase in the NRPA and MRPA, which is the National Park and Rec and Mass Park and Rec memberships that myself and the assistant director are members of. So that's kind of a small budget as far as expenses go. Would you like me to ask if there's any questions budget by budget? That's probably the easiest way since
Sure,
there's
that'd be
5
great.
budgets. So does anyone have any questions on anything here on the rec budget?
There's no override request, correct?
Correct.
And just to confirm, Steve, thank you. The 57,000 that you said went back into the revenue pot, that's revenue, that's profit on the expenses versus what the programming made for the town, is that?
Exactly
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Yes.
Do you mind if I just sort of expand upon that a little bit? So part of when we set fee structures is we also want to make sure that we are factoring in some level of future maintenance for the properties that these rec department programs occur on. So at the end of the year, that $58,000 does come back into the general fund, and it gets certified as free cash, which we then typically use free cash for capital improvements. And so the idea would be that the revenue, the surplus that the revolving turns back would then be reinvested in upgrades or maintenance to those properties. Okay.
Thank you.
We good with recreation? Next slide, great. The pool budget. Salaries, 2 full-time positions, as I discussed. Intermittent and seasonal, my request was 10% from 120,000 up to 132,000. This increase allows us to be more competitive in the recruitment of new lifeguards, as well as merit pay increases to our current staff. It's a very competitive industry, especially in the area now with more pools in the area. To keep our staff, we need to be able to pay them at a competitive wage. Also, since the addition of our second, and not really addition, replacement of our second aquatics manager over the past year, we've increased revenues 16%. That money, those monies come directly from increased swim lessons as well as our Aqueducts in-town swim team. A lot of our lifeguards are also swim instructors and coaches within the Aqueducts. When they instruct lessons or coach, their hourly rate goes up a little bit. So in order to keep those people, that number of, that $12,000 more is what I'm requesting.
Steve,
Sure.
could you help break that down, because it's not a lot of money based on the amount of lifeguards here. So you're talking about,
This is the pool lifeguards.
right, so
Okay.
the pool, you're talking about $10,000, $12,000 over, what, 45 lifeguards?
45, but that's throughout the year. So at any time, for instance, now, I did payroll last week, I probably paid out 12 different lifeguards.
Okay.
And if you even go with an average of $1 a raise, $1 an hour raise, that number works.
Okay.
It's
That's
a
what-
delta between what they've always been paid, only the raise, only the adjustment to their wage to stay competitive.
And stop me if this is not a good question to ask.
No,
in
no, no,
public,
no, I just
but
wanna make
what's
sure-
the, what are we talking about prevailing wages here, like range-wise?
About $16 to $20 an hour.
Okay, so we're talking about $1 on that.
Correct. That's why percentages don't really work. You know, somebody
Right.
making $16 an hour, if you were to give them a 2.5% raise,
Okay.
you might as well not insult them.
No, that's what I'm getting
Yeah,
at here.
absolutely, yeah, thank you. And again, based on they're not working 40 hours, so
No.
it's gotta be the 50 cent or $1 raise.
Got it.
Steve, can you give me an idea of the revenue that comes into the pool, please?
Sure. In 2023, our revenue was $58,000.
Uh-huh.
We generated that 16% got us up to just about $68,000 last year.
Okay.
Thank you. Next slide is expenses.
Oops, sorry. Too fast.
The first three on the list are utilities, electric, gas, and water. 10% historically has been the amount we've requested in this, for this line item. I believe a year or two ago, later in the process, a more realistic number came in and we changed that, but for now, a 10% increase for utilities is what we're asking. The next one is pool building grounds maintenance. That's our pest control, Waltham Pest, and they literally just went up a little bit, and it's straight math of $113.85 times 12 months is $13.67. So just asking for the exact amount. No increase there. South Shore Waste Disposal. That's our dumpster, which we share with the student union, and that went up a little bit. The cost is, again, $110 a month now, which gets us to $13.20. No other increases there. If you go to the next slide, testing, that is for the Board of Health. We have our water tested from a company in Middleborough independently, and it used to be $100. It's now $300, so we needed to ask for $200 more in that item. The next and only other increase is for chemicals. In talking to our chemical supply company, they let us know that we could probably bank on a 10% increase this year in what the chemicals are going to cost to keep the pool balanced. So I just used that number exactly. Any other questions on the pool budget?
Yeah, just to clarify, the only override request, right, because the rest is in the balanced budget.
Correct.
Is for the increased hours and the $1 or $2 pay rise for the lifeguards.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
North Hill budget.
I think we can move through the ones that are
Perfect, yes.
impacted.
This says nothing, no impact at all at North Hill. Beach lifeguards, intermittent seasonal employees, which are the actual beach lifeguards we have on the beach. This number represents a $1 an hour increase merit increase for our returning employees. And if we need to go out and recruit, it allows us to offer a competitive rate to recruit at. It's not really a secret that over the past 10 years, getting beach lifeguards, not just for us, but nationwide, has been a really tough thing to do. They need a lot of you need to pass, a lot of tests to get that position, and then the pay doesn't always go along with it. So we're trying to be competitive. We've recruited very well. We have a nice pipeline because we're fortunate that we have the pool where we train and certify lifeguards. They work at the pool, and then the end goal is to be a beach lifeguard, which has worked out pretty well. So when I go to conferences and I hear people talking about swim at own risk signs all over the place, I'm kind of proud to say that we don't have to do that very often. It's maybe sometimes at the very end of the summer, because kids go back to college so much earlier now, but we're staffed as well as any beach in the area. Not much else. There's the two bigger ones that increase. We need to repair our lifeguard tower. It needs to be welded occasionally, and this year it's going to need to be welded. That's going to cost about $1,000. And I'm going to need to buy a new rescue kayak. Our kayak is about 8 to 10 years old. At the end of the season, it got a crack in it. It's no longer useful. It clearly paid for itself. We had it for, like I said, 8 to 10 years. It costs about $1,000 to get a new kayak. So as far as expenses, that's all I have. So Fernando, to answer what maybe you would ask, is that $1 an hour increase merit, and
Yep.
our recruiting money would be the money we'd really need.
Yep.
Beach operations. Do you want to move past this like we did North Hill?
No.
Oh,
No, I don't,
okay.
but that was very hopeful of you. That was nice.
I had to ask.
Yeah, no, that was hopeful, but
Yeah,
no.
no, I had to ask.
No. Good one.
Same type of deal. There's a lot of, I'm going to kind of quote Rainey, which I've done a million times since we've taken the beach over. he said it's going to take 5 or 6 years to know what we're dealing with. And I think we all know that just this winter, there's now a thing called the snowy owl season, which we never anticipated before. So when I presented this budget back in the fall, to be quite honest, I did not know we were going to have a snowy owl season where we were going to have to double and triple the staff we've had in December, January, and it's going to go right through. Those things could stay till April.
The lovely birds.
They're beautiful. And people come from all over the country to see them. We've got people that are flying in from California, Utah, Arizona to see them. In turn, with that said, we've increased our off-season sticker sales. From last year, we sold 41 off-season back road stickers. This year, we've sold over 200 to a tune of a little over $35,000 just in the last month.
Can I ask you a question about that, Steve?
Sure.
The only place right now you can get a off-season sticker is at Town Hall, is that
The
right?
Treasury Department sells the stickers, yes.
I was wondering, because you do have people that come down, I'm one of those people that goes down to look at the snowy owls. And the beach ops people are doing a much better job at making sure people have stickers.
Yes.
And are staying off the marshes and all those sorts of things. But some people will show up without a sticker, right? And so, they have the opportunity to walk down the beach. It's a really long walk on some very cold days. Would it be possible to be able to buy this is sort of for Rainy too, I think, to buy a one-day pass? And if you have somebody coming out from Utah and they're showing up and they don't have a sticker because it's a Saturday and Town Hall's closed, could those beach op people with, either a credit card machine or Venmo or something sell at point a one-day pass?
I guess here's what I'll say. I don't disagree with what you're saying. And I will maybe defer to Rainey a little bit. That process is a little more complicated than it sounds. It's kind of the same thing in the summer when somebody comes down and is saying, we're just visiting family for the weekend. Can't we just buy a 2-day pass and pay? We don't have that function right now. I do agree with your statement that it would be great to have, and I know Rainey has brought up many times in the past, and it's, we're not saying no to this, but eventually maybe we have the ability to sell a week pass if someone's down here. And I'm speaking more for the summer, but it could work into that direction. So no, I do agree with you. One thing I wanted to just make clear too is that the Treasury Department doesn't always have, not at their fault, the actual sticker. So when people go and, even right now in the winter, because we're getting a lot of complaints, there's people on the back road without stickers. What I wanted to say to that is so that people understand. One, you can see, I believe we have, if you count every oversand sticker that people purchased this year, as well as the over 200 that have been sold this year. That's a lot of cars that potentially could be out there. A lot of the cars, because we are doing a good job now of checking stickers, that's why I think the sales are up so well. People that don't have them show our ranger on their phone their receipt that they purchased it. So you may walk by a vehicle and say, why is this car parked here without a sticker? Well, I can't say everyone because we're not perfect, but majority of those have not got by us without showing us the receipt on their cell phone.
So they can go online.
Correct, but I
Purchase.
believe the Treasury had to shut down the online for what, and I don't know all the mechanics of how the Treasury.
Just something to think
Was
about, about how
100%
to
it is.
maximize receipts
I
and
couldn't agree more.
maximize, people actually going on that have.
Sure, and I don't know if Rainey wanted to speak on that at all.
Yeah, I personally love the idea of a daily pass. I like a weekend pass. I like a weekly pass. We've looked at all these different mutations, but it's a hard thing for us to do because we're a single point of sale. You got to go to the Treasurer Collector's Office because you've got to validate your driver's license. So there's a bit of a process there. We've got some of it online, as Steve said, and we will accept the virtual receipt, if you will. We do it for the transfer station as well. You can print it off.
Yeah.
They'll take that. We haven't figured out the sort of the perfect solution for that. It's out there. I just don't know what it is yet. Not for lack of want, not
Yeah.
for lack of trying. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Like
I mean,
what you're talking about would be like a bird permit, you know, you could have it
absolutely, yeah,
from whenever they're here to whenever they leave. And
Right.
I think it's a great idea,
Like the Cape beaches, right?
Yes.
You can go down
Yeah.
off-season.
to, you know, the Cape beaches and get a daily pass.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
it's, you know, and it's,
Well, as far as the drive-on beach, that hasn't been as big of a push because we've had such limited access and the people that are buying the season passes.
yes, but the winter
But in the
time,
winter, it would be,
it's different.
it would be a real, but I'm laughing because I can remember when Rainey was first hired, he came up with this as an idea, and I don't believe any of you were on the board at that point in time, but it was not met with smiles and
Warmth.
encouragement. It was a rough start. So
I had-
you were just a man with an idea before it was time, that's all.
Thank you, yeah. Yeah, it was something that I'd seen in Mashpee when I worked there.
Yeah.
We did exactly what I said, daily, weekend,
Yeah.
weekly.
It's certainly something that the task force can be looking at because it would be, over time, certainly something that would be a revenue source and,
Yeah.
but there are expenses associated with something
And
like that.
it
but
does,
but worth exploring.
it does
Yeah,
have a
worth exploring.
potential adverse impact to revenue, because when you sell an annual sticker, you're selling it at a higher price point. When you start selling a shorter duration sticker, you're gonna sell it at a lower price point.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is the volume will change. You'd have fewer annual stickers and more
daily.
weekend or week-long or dailies.
So maybe you start with the winter sticker.
Well, I'm just
Well,
thinking-
the winter thing is a good one.
The
'cause
winter,
that's-
I'm just thinking about the winter, you know,
Yeah.
right now. Good thought.
Anyway, yeah.
Could I jump in? Something I've mentioned to Steve, and I think it's important, especially when we're talking about additional staff here. I've seen that Artie's been really out straight during the summer. Done a tremendous job, works as a great team player. We've had increased days on the beach over the last couple of years. But this marketing, understanding are we losing dollars? Is there better ways for the end user as far as the price and for options like this? We bat them around in these kind of meetings, but I'm wondering if with this additional staff member, freeing up an Artie or freeing up an assistant to him would allow for somebody to do some kind of analysis like this, look around at other beaches.
Yes, obviously, yeah.
And, because I think we got more money last year. We're on the upswing here. But is there a better way of doing this, rather than just guessing? Get a real market analysis, understand, and even put it out to the community, what they would support. But right now, to ask Artie to do that, well, he's moving around, ropes on a Friday and then moving them back on a Saturday morning. There's just no time. He's working 80 hours a week probably in the summer, and 40 of which he's getting paid for. So it's.
I think that's a really great point, Mike. And the other issue is even with the OSV stickers, there are folks who, when we start to get stretches of really nice weather and access to the beach, folks who chose not to purchase them early on, but all of a sudden on a Friday afternoon want to jump on and grab that sticker, it can be challenging. And so we've been starting to investigate some more mobile options. There are, of course, costs associated with investing in those types of products and functionality. But there are other beaches across the Commonwealth that do different things in terms of providing access and permitting capabilities. And we'd love to have resources from the beach work with the treasurer's office in order to make that happen.
Yeah, digitizing that process, I think is a
Yeah.
really good exploration for town.
Yeah.
If I could jump in and ask some questions, I think it's important to talk about a new full-time assistant beach ops manager. So that's a full-time, year-round additional person for the beach. And, we've all been, seeing the revenues of the beach going down over the years. And I'm happy to hear that they are, creeping back up in some way. But I think I would like to hear about the duties, and if there's been consideration of I understand Artie's, out straight in the summer, but, seasonal, have you looked at the seasonal versus year-round? And I just think it would be important to understand and explore the real need for that position.
Okay, yeah, I was going to get to that. Are we satisfied with the intermittent seasonal numbers
Yep,
before I
we're
move
good,
on
thank
to
you.
that position? Okay, good. Then, sure, yes, Amy, to answer your question first, that was one of the first questions the Finance Committee asked, and my opinion on that, which hasn't changed, it's probably gotten stronger, is that the candidate we're looking for to fill this position is not a seasonal employee. We're looking, I've watched these meetings the last couple of Thursday nights twice. Actually, in a couple of terms that I've heard a lot of is burnout and succession plan. And I think in order to be responsible down there, to continue to have the beach move in a positive manner, last summer, in my opinion, is the best summer we've had that I can remember, since the recreation department has taken over that. And what I will say is that, if you want to call it luck or what have you, to stumble into Artie, who's from Boston originally, and I'm going to give him a quick bio on him just so that people can understand the complexity of his position. He's from Boston. He graduated from Northeastern University with a degree in criminal justice. He ended up moving out to Austin, Texas, where he had a 27-year career in law enforcement, everything from a patrolman up to the top of the ranks. When he retired, he moved back to Marshfield and took a retirement job as a beach ranger. We were struggling at the time with our beach operations manager, no fault of his own. The position just was bigger. None of us, Betsy, I believe you were on the original hiring committee, and I know Rainey was too. We didn't realize the complexity of this position, and unfortunately, and I'm not speaking poorly because the person in that position before worked very hard, but this job is demanding, and it takes a lot to run it properly. And once that position was vacant, and I talked with Artie for a week, and I drove around with him and got to know him, I went into Rainey and said, this has to be the guy. We did our interviews. He was the slam dunk. If we were able to hire the person that I envisioned for this job and for a succession plan, this has got to be a full-time person that's year-round. It's not just, I can look at my notes here, from April to October, where the beach is open, by open meaning the crossovers and being patrolled, an average of 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. The rest of the year, November to March, which used to be considered the slow season, is 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now that there's owl season, and I think I have to anticipate that that's going to become the norm, our staffing for part-times has increased dramatically. The person we're looking for, I think, is a professional. It's going to be someone, there's a job description out there that has a college degree that can be mentored by Artie. Throughout the year, there are weekly meetings year-round, not just in the summer, sometimes 3-4 meetings. This person needs to be able to attend those meetings when Artie's not there to do it. Artie meets weekly with the DVR all winter long. Artie also needs to take vacation time and days off. The beach closes often at 11 o'clock at night. Artie or myself are the two that have to wait to get that call. We're all locked up. There needs to be, in my opinion, a full-time, year-round person. I do think the job now justifies not just a seasonal position, because I think the winter months now, there's more than enough work to be done for that position, but as well as create or eliminate burnout and create a succession plan if we want to succeed in the future.
If I may add to that, whales and seals die year-round. It just so happens that they get more publicity in the summer than they do in the winter, but when something like that happens, the DVR will take care of it, but Artie's usually the first guy out there to help with that. Mm-hmm. We've got an avian bird flu problem. He's been working with them on that. We've had a couple of birds die, and he's the guy.
Yeah. And Rainey, I know you've been to some of the off-season meetings with Artie. Kate runs beach meetings. He's not able, unfortunately, right now, to attend everything that he should be attending because he's got to be at the beach now because it's crazy. I probably babbled a little too much, but I guess I'm firm in my opinion that this needs to be a year-round and not a seasonal if we're going to get a person that is fit for the position.
I think too, one of the discussion points with the reservation, when you all are discussing the lease, is the fact that they have been adamant about our responsibilities as far as making sure that the beach 12 months a year is treated the way that it should be and monitored so that people aren't driving on the dunes or destroying or harming things. It's not just the birds. And now with the snowy owl being our new best friend, and it's a lot of people are there, and I can remember last year or the year before there was a lot of problem with the dunes, and it was because people were just trying to take pictures of these birds. And when you then put in restrictions, if everybody read the Globe, we were on the bird was on the front page, and there's restrictions as to how close you're supposed to get to the birds and so on and so forth. I think that's as much to protect the beach as to protect the birds, and somebody's got to be monitoring that. And that has been a real conversation with the reservation as to that responsibility, and this is the only way we can honor that.
Yeah, and it's our goal to implement this year, and when I mention all the departments, the Treasury Department, I can't believe I didn't mention them, but they've been working tirelessly to help us with this escorting plan, which is now in the lease. And in order to implement that, it's going to require more staff, just like when we have the limited openings, which we were lucky to have a lot of this summer. It's often been thought that when it's a limited opening, say we're informed by DVR that we can have 100 vehicles, say 50 vehicles on the beach, that might sound like, well, that's easy, you don't need as much staff. We need more staff than normal, than if it was open fully to 500 vehicles, because one, we have to have a queue where we keep people, so one on, one off. We have to have more staff on the beach, because when they're allowing us to do the limited openings, it's because there are still protected areas out there that we have to monitor. When the beach is open fully to 500 vehicles, not that it's not easy to manage, but it's much easier to manage than when it's a limited opening. And with the hopefully escorting process coming in, that's going to require more staff as well.
Could I ask another question about the hours of the beach? We know that in at least last summer, the evening hours that you were allowed on the beach were shortened. And I think the closing at 8 or 9.
We actually increased last summer.
It was
Okay,
two
so it was
summers
increased, so it was
ago.
2 summers ago?
And
Okay,
then
'cause
last
I wanted
summer we
to.
went up.
So
10 or 11 was what
the
we did in
additional
the summer.
person will allow for the beach to remain open. I know a lot of families like to go out at night and.
100%, yeah. My perfect scenario, and if it can work that way, would almost be the full-timer, Artie, and the assistant. The assistant would work, and Artie would work with him, because that's the type of person he is, but almost closing backwards and closing forward. So for a lot of the time, we would have a full-time staff member down there.
So in other words, in summary then, what I'm hearing is that by increasing staff from 1 to 2 in terms of management and controlling and ensuring that we're complying with the requirements will result in greater access by the residents to the beach? Is that a fair statement?
Potentially, because we don't know what escorting is going to be like. We've never done it. I feel at this point, we're going to need a full-time staff member to be there. Artie already works basically 7 days a week in the summer. I'm there with him a lot of the times, but yeah, in order to implement, we get a call on a Friday that on Sunday, there's going to be limited access to 75 vehicles. Hey, Artie, you're not off Sunday, you're working now.
Okay.
If you have a second person there now, you know what if Artie is gone?
And it is important to always remember, though, that access is going to be dictated by Mother Nature.
100%.
We work around that.
Like they said, last year we got a lot of compliments of thank you for working hard and getting the beach open. I was reluctant to accept any of those praises because guess what? This year if the birds decide to change their mind or predation doesn't work the way it did and the beach and we don't have as great a summer as we did last year, I'd like to shield from that blame.
Okay.
I think it's also important to realize that burnout is a real thing, and if this guy's working 18 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week, he's not going to be there forever. So you need to take some of the load off of him so that we can keep him.
And it also sounds like we could be sued by by a clever labor lawyer, right? Because we pay him for 40 hours, right?
He's salary.
He's salary, but still,
Yes, but no, he,
Fernando.
Maybe that's what you don't say out loud, okay?
Oh, really?
Just saying.
Thank you for your thoughts.
yeah.
Moving along.
and I guess, Amy, to say your question of more access, I would also say the quality of the operation will go up because a lot of trainings that Artie's unable to attend, he would be able to attend if we had another person there, and that person would be as well.
And I think it's worth noting that we've had some tremendous momentum in the last few years of increased access and providing transparency about everything. And that has a lot to do with this department and,
Yes.
and the professionalism that they've had there. And from our standpoint too, as far as dollars, and may have been for other factors, but I think these folks deserve some credit. Last summer, between July 1st and August 15th, we sold 51,835 stickers. Oh, we made $51,835. It was 194 stickers. The year before, we sold 98 stickers and only made 23,000. It's almost at 2 times the number of stickers because that beach was open earlier. So this momentum is great for our community and for the users of it, but it's also bringing in increased revenue. So I think it's money well spent, and they're doing a tremendous job.
Thank you.
Is everybody else set on that? Okay, why don't you move on to, you've got just some expenses on that one as well, Steve?
Sure.
Uniforms, repairs, vehicle repairs and
Yeah.
supplies.
Exactly. Our fleet right now consists of 4 vehicles, a 2011 Chevy Tahoe and 2018 Silverado, a 2020 GMC and a 2022 Ford, which those last 2 I mentioned, ARPA funds helped us out and we got those last year, which are tremendous vehicles. I am working closely and all the other departments are great. When they look to trade their vehicles in, if it's time to get an upgrade, I'm one of their first calls of, would you like this vehicle, which my answer is going to always be yes. But with that said, wear and tear down there on vehicles is crazy. We just had this morning an undercoat seal put on one of our newer vehicles to try to keep the life of it going, and we were charged an additional $200 because they said they couldn't believe they have a car wash system down there that shoots up underneath because before they're going to put the seal on there, it has to be perfectly cleaned. And they said it took them an extra 2 hours to literally chisel dry and hardened sand in crevices. So our vehicles, as well as our 5 UTVs, take a beating down there. We take care of them, but it's just the nature of the beast. They're being driven every day.
It's a hostile environment.
Yeah, it is, and we try to keep the trucks off the beach as much as possible and utilize our UTVs. But the amount of vehicle maintenance that we go through, it's really, I only ask for more because each year we've fallen short. It's gone over the budget, so I went up to $30,000 is what I want, and I'm going to be honest, that's a guess. Things could happen. It could be $50,000. You never know. I mean, we'd hit a point where we wouldn't invest, good money into bad if the vehicle wasn't worth fixing. But it's a never-ending process, and we are trying to get smarter, working with the highway department. They're the ones that kind of led us in the direction of that new coding, to which, if we have enough money left in this year's budget, I'm going to try to do our new UTVs as well, because that'll just increase their life expectancy. So the vehicle maintenance was a big increase that we were looking for. Looking down at other important increases. There's other smaller ones. I know, Betsy, you said, I've heard you the past couple nights, if it's not a large amount of money, I guess $1,200 more for uniforms. We have been lucky to retain a lot of our staff, but a lot of those staff are wearing the same shirts we gave them 3 summers ago. It's time for those people to get new shirts, and we're continually recruiting and bringing in new people. And being a coach, I like my team to look uniformed, and I think they look good and professional down there, and that's how I'd like to keep it. So we have to keep up with uniforms.
They need to be identifiable.
Correct.
Yeah.
Steve, can I ask you a question? The newer vehicles that you have, those all did get that undercarriage sealant, right?
This morning, the first one got it. Tomorrow, the second one's getting it.
Yeah, it's kind of penny wise and pound foolish not to do that.
1,000%. You
You
will
sold
never
us on
not-
that last year, yeah.
Yeah, we'll never not do that to a vehicle again. And what we did was, we didn't have the money to do them all, but the company's pretty good. Norm sent us down there because it's a company they use in the highway department. But they're pretty honest with us too. They looked at one of our vehicles and said, we won't put it on that because it's not worth it. But yeah, we'll never not get a new vehicle that we won't put that coating on.
Good.
Could I suggest that you have the coating put on before you drive it off the lot the first time? The first time that vehicle goes out onto the beach, you can be sure it's getting affected by the salt.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The place that does the coating doesn't typically sell us the trucks or give them to us, but we'll get them there as
Should be
quickly
the
as
first
we
stop.
can. Yeah, it will be.
Turn left out the dealer lot, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Great. That's it,
Any
isn't
other
it?
questions?
Anybody have any more questions for?
Thank you very much.
Director?
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.
Perfect.
I wanted to say it.
So I think have we covered everybody that was on the agenda?
Yep.
So, Mary, you were going to jump in to fill in with some of the financial ones because if we have time?
Yeah, looking at the clock, if you guys want me to go through the finance department budgets, I'm happy to do that this evening.
Yeah, why don't we keep moving?
Maximize our time. Oh, is that okay, Mike?
It's okay with me?
Don't leave, finance is the best bit. Sorry.
Go ahead, Mary, that'd be
Apprehension?
great.
Just a quick question. Are these departments that were advertised previously for a future date?
These departments were originally scheduled for the very first meeting, and we didn't have time to get to them.
Okay,
So they've sort of been held in abeyance.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, we're not in trouble.
I just want to make sure if anybody was anticipating coming to a future meeting to hear this, that they're not feeling.
No.
If anyone shows up at the next meeting and would like to go through it, I'd be happy to talk with them about it, for sure.
Fair, though. Very
That's
fair.
our ace in the
Yeah.
hole, is Mary's here, and she'll be here if somebody has a question next week as well. Go ahead, Mary.
All right.
You can listen to it online also.
So I have to say that it's really hard to follow culture and rec departments because they're the really fun departments and they're the parts of the community that we all get to really enjoy. But the finance department is one of our backbone departments, and although it may not be considered fun by a lot of folks in town, it's certainly considered fun by the folks in the finance department.
We love you, Mary.
Yeah, we think it's fun.
So in terms of the finance department, we cover 5 critical areas: assessing, treasury collection, accounting, budget and capital planning, and financial reporting. What we do is we essentially process and manage all of the financial resources that enable our departments to provide these high-quality services to our community. So our resources, when we talk about financial resources, it's the funds that are coming into the community and being managed properly, and then being dispersed either to our employees who are providing our services or to our vendors from whom we are purchasing goods and services. As we sort of talk about budgetary constraints, some things to keep in mind is as our budgets grow, as our community grows and our budgets grow, and we talk about the impacts to our various departments, the volume of transactions grows accordingly. So there are more purchase orders, there are more invoices, there are more checks, there are potentially more employees, there are more property tax bills, there's higher and higher volumes that occur on an annual basis, and yet there has not been a corresponding increase in staff in these departments in quite some time. Another thing to bear in mind is that we have experienced in the finance department a significant amount of turnover. So there's about 13.5 FTEs. In the past 2 years, approximately 6 folks have joined the town of Duxbury in their capacity with limited experience. So part of that is that we are investing a great deal of time in terms of training, on-the-job training, and bringing people up to speed to make sure that we have the right people in the right seats, but also we need to invest in them and make sure that they stay here, and also think about succession planning as well. So these are some of our budgetary constraints that we keep in mind. With that being said, the finance department budget covers these 5 areas: accounting, the audit, the assessing department, treasurer collector's department, and then tax title. With respect to the FY26 budget requests, the 5A budget, or what I will call the omnibus budget, unfortunately, in our finance departments, we are facing a reduction in force of 1.5 FTEs. That includes the loss or potential loss of a position in the accounting office, the assistant town accountant, and the potential loss of a part-time position in the assessing office, a position that provides critical administrative support. In the 5B budget, or the override budget, what we are requesting is an increase of $19,000 over the current year's budget, over FY25. That would represent a 1.6% increase. So the omnibus budget that we are facing, that would include the reduction in force, would be a reduction of $94,000 or 7.6% decrease. And if the override were to pass, our finance department budgets would increase by 1.6%. That $19,000 covers a number of different things that I have included in the chart at the bottom. In the accounting office, as I just talked about, we have essentially the entire accounting office. The 4 folks that are in there are all new to their positions within the last 2 years. So there is a need to make sure that we have sufficient funding for the training and conferences that they need to go to. And also funding for consulting. And what that is we have a number of new department heads across the organization who are responsible for purchasing goods and services. And we need to make sure that we are always in compliance with Chapter 30B, which is the procurement law. So the intent here is to bring in a consultant who is an expert in procurement and do a refresher training for all of our departments to understand true compliance with Chapter 30B. Our annual audit, so our town conducts an annual audit. We bring in an independent third-party audit firm who takes a look at our financial statements, looks at our records very thoroughly, and performs a financial audit, not a forensic audit, but a financial audit. We are required to have this independent review done annually. Any community who issues debt is required to have an annual audit performed on their financial transactions. Under the assessor's office, the override budget would contemplate an increase in some various supplies and material lines. Under the treasurer collector's office, there is a request for an increase in part-time seasonal hours, and I'll get to that in a moment. And then the last budget line item is tax title. And for folks who are not familiar with the term tax title is property owners who have received tax bills who have not paid their tax bills. There is a procedure under Mass General Law that allows us to place a lien on their property and move their account into what's called tax title. That account accrues interest, and we work with our tax title attorneys as well as the property owner to remedy that situation, but it ensures that the town is always protected, that at some point we will receive the delinquent taxes as well as all of the fees and interest on those accounts. We don't like to see people go into tax title, and I will tell you that Duxbury is fortunate that you have a very small portfolio here compared to a number of other communities. But this is increased funding to work with our tax title attorney, our legal counsel, because the compliance laws surrounding tax title have recently changed. and we need to make sure that our staff is up to speed on those laws and that we are following them properly. Okay? So the assessing office. The assessor's office, their primary responsibility is to value all real and personal property in accordance with Mass General Law, to administer our abatement and exemption programs, to work with the public in addressing all of their matters quickly and courteously, and that office is currently staffed with 3.5 FTEs, so there are 3 full-time staff members and 1 part-time staff member, and under the omnibus budget, the reduction in force would be, that is being contemplated, would be the half-time position in that org chart over there. This is a sample of the list of duties that the assessor's office is responsible for. It's a wide range of duties, not only valuing our property, our 6,700 parcels, to meet the full and fair cash value standards that we're required to do, but they also process deed ownership changes as we have sales throughout the community. They administer and calculate all of our betterments that are added to tax bills. They process abutters lists. They manage our overlay account. They represent us at the appellate tax board. They apply the abatements to tax bills for all of our wonderful volunteers who participate in the tax work-off program. They also have to prepare for the tax classification process, the annual hearing that is conducted before the select board each year. There's a lot of statutory reporting and compliance, and certainly an awful lot of customer service. A lot of what they do is deadline driven, and a lot of what they do is administrative in terms of managing the abatement and exemption programs, which have an awful lot of customer interface, and so the loss of staff that is being contemplated in that office would have a direct impact on those services. The accounting office. The accounting office is the office that is charged with recording all of our financial transactions in accordance with the uniform accounting structure that is promulgated throughout Massachusetts. And they are also responsible for working with all of our departments in terms of the revenue that those departments take in, the bills that they pay, as well as payroll. So we have 1 full-time person who manages and processes payroll for the entire town, and that person is in our accounting office. We have 1 person who manages and processes all of the invoices and issues checks to our vendors. That person is in the accounting office, overseen by our town accountant, who is responsible for recording all of our financial transactions. The assistant town accountant not only assists the town accountant in completing those duties, but also serves as a backup for the accounts payable bookkeeper as well as for the payroll administrator. And unfortunately, under the omnibus budget scenario, we would be facing a reduction in force of the assistant town accountant. And so this is a list of the duties that the accounting office processes, and facing a reduction in staff in that office, as you can clearly see, it would have a dramatic impact on the accounting function. It would eliminate our backup or succession planning for when our accounts payable person is either out on vacation or sick. Same thing with payroll. And so it's unfortunately, it's a critical position in our organization, and unfortunately will have a very direct impact on our ability to process our transactions. In the Treasurer Collector's Office. The Treasurer Collector's Office is currently staffed with 5.5 FTEs. And when we think about the Treasurer Collector's Office, it's essentially 2 separate departments combined together. So there is a treasury function and there is a collection function. And they have very distinct and separate duties and responsibilities. The collection function is responsible for issuing all of our tax bills, whether it's real estate, personal property, motor vehicle excise, boat excise, water, sewer, all of the bills that are issued from out into the community, as well as all of the collections of those bills, falls under the responsibility of the collector's side of that office. In terms of the treasurer's side, the treasurer is responsible for the receipt of those funds and making sure that those funds get deposited into the bank, making sure that they get invested, and then making sure that we are funding all of the warrants for the payroll and accounts payable disbursement check runs that happen each week. So they are two separate and distinct functions. But beyond simply the issuance of bills and collecting payments against bills, or the deposits of funds into our treasury, there's a number of other tasks that fall under the domain of the Treasurer Collector's Office. We have to make sure that we maintain a very strong banking relationships with our investment management partners, as well as all of the depositories that we utilize to manage our funds. Managing the tax title portfolio that I just spoke about earlier. Making sure that we are recording all of our necessary documentation at the Registry of Deeds in compliance with the strict due dates that we have to adhere to. They also are the point of sale for our beach stickers. After that active conversation regarding the beach, we need to recognize that all of that activity funnels through the Treasurer's Office, as well as the other permits that they also have responsible for point of sale. They are a huge part of our annual audit. They have a lot of compliance requirements in terms of when our auditors come out to do our field work, and they need to supply a wide variety of information for our auditors to do their independent review. They also handle our unclaimed property, which is called our tailings process that happens at the end of the year. They participate in the annual review of all of our fee structure changes, and they have a lot of statutory reporting requirements to the Department of Revenue that they must adhere to. So what I want to address with the folks here this evening is there have been questions about why the Treasurer's Office has not been subject to reductions in force like a number of other departments. And to that, I will explain for you that this is our bank. This is the town's bank where all of our funds, every single dollar that comes into our organization, flows through and into the Treasurer's Office and is also dispersed through the Treasurer's Office. There is a high degree of internal control and fiduciary responsibility that is placed on that office. At no time can we have less than 2 people covering that office for proper internal controls. When we have people who are out on vacation or who are out sick or who are out training, we need to make sure that we have proper coverage to make sure that we are adhering to and upholding our fiduciary responsibility to the best of our ability. So contemplating reducing staff in that office and exposing us to any sort of risk of being able to properly implement our controls was just simply not an option for me. I will tell you that Rainey and I have had numerous conversations about that, and it would be a very big risk for us to reduce our staff any further in that office. Okay.
Question, Mary, thank you for, it's quite a lot. We have a lot of individual processes that happen through your departments. A lot of administrative tasks. I know we have or are about to have a new head of IT for the town come in.
New
And
old.
I'd be, what's that?
New old.
New old?
Returning.
Oh, okay. I'd be curious to hear, to the extent you can answer now, otherwise I'm not looking for an answer immediately, opportunities to automate or to somehow expedite processes through technology as opposed to, but everybody who's there I know does a great job. But in terms of when we're talking about trying to do things more efficiently or effectively, as we think about FTEs, and it might not be for this budget, maybe next year, whatever, as we look forward, that we will take advantage of technological developments that might become available to municipalities generally. It wouldn't be something specific to us, but new platforms and that sort of thing that would help us do the additional work or the same work maybe more efficiently.
Yep, that you raise a very valid point. We have, since I've been here, I have explored some additional software products. One of the challenges that we have with the existing ERP system, our financial system, is that there's actually 2 iterations that are currently in production here. One iteration is for the tax billing and collections functions, and the other is for our financial reporting and our invoice, our vendor processing, and our depository. one is very old and one is not so old, but there's limitations in the functionality that they have. So there is some manual work that is currently done because of those limitations. I have looked at some software products. What I've seen so far would not fit the bill, and the one product that is out in the marketplace is extraordinarily expensive. And it would, to the tune of raising our annual fees that we currently pay, that are about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Communities like us would be, that fee could go up to almost $1 million, which is not an option for us to entertain. So we are looking at software products. One of the things that we're focusing on first is this point of sale, having some sort of a more functional, more robust point of sale product so that people would be able to get access to those beach stickers and those parking stickers much easier.
Stickers.
Yep, all of those.
Thank you.
Yep.
Municipal software is not a real robust,
It's not a moneymaker.
well, it's not a moneymaker for most of these tech companies, so therefore the programming is not as robust as in other more profitable areas.
No, understood that they're out there, and there were a number of them at MMA.
So,
And
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
not.
You
it's not-
guys were in the same
We-
conference.
we were at the same conference, and to Brian's point, and there were also some other folks from the town of Duxbury that were there. The MMA conference is a very large conference that the Mass Municipal Association hosts in January every year, and there's a part of that conference is a very large trade show exhibition where you have access to a number of vendors across a wide variety of disciplines. Software is certainly one of them, and so we did contact and reach out, speak with a number of software vendors to address some issues that we have here, and we are looking at some additional products to automate some of the things that are currently being done manually in some of the other departments.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that long ago that we did do an update of our software. I'm sure it's very outdated as soon as we got it, but it wasn't that long ago.
Are you talking about Microsoft 365? The
No,
Office?
No,
it's talking about
software.
Perfect.
Software, oh, software.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably
6 or 7 years ago.
Did
Yeah.
the systems even talk to each other, Mary?
So they do. There are interfaces among the systems. At this point, just given the cost of financial software, I think we're going to pivot a little bit and try to address some of the other issues. Our payroll software is a higher priority. There are many more limitations in our existing payroll software than we are facing in our financial software, and we'd like to be able to address
Is that
those.
Harper?
It is,
Yeah.
and that one was implemented, I think, during
Yeah, that was
COVID.
COVID. Yeah,
Yep,
it was
not long ago.
But there's
COVID.
some
COVID.
It's a COVID one.
Yeah, there's some pretty severe limitations in some of the functionality. So we end up having to, when we have to do research, and we do research a lot, we've gotten numerous public records requests that require us to go into archives in order to be able to find information. So we want to be able to address that.
Is there any way that we can, I don't know what the schools use for software for payroll, but maybe, a bundle deal with them or somehow?
We are aligned with the school department. They use the same software products that we have.
We cut the checks, their paychecks.
Yes. We do decentralized entry with centralized control, so the departments initiate all of the transactions, and then it rolls up into the accounting office for review, approval, and final processing. So payroll, for example, all the departments enter their gross pay, the hours that their employees work, and then we calculate gross to net and in the accounting office and produce the checks. Okay?
I think at one point, somebody had asked whether HR, thought HR did that. They don't. This is the department that handles that.
I'd love to move it somewhere.
No, no,
But I don't
no,
think
no.
it's going anywhere.
No, no.
It's staying with us.
No.
So hopefully you can understand that although the accounting office is facing reductions in force through the omnibus budget, I am hoping that the community sees fit to support the override budget so that that doesn't happen and put us at risk of not being able to do our jobs in a timely manner. There are a lot of ripple effects if we are not able to complete our monthly reconciliations and our audits and our certification of free cash in a timely manner. Any questions?
Nope.
Great.
Thank you, Mary.
Sure, my
Thank
pleasure.
you, Mary.
Great, so now what we have left here is HR, right? And what else besides Jeannie next week?
Fixed costs and HR.
Yep, fixed
And
costs
I'll
and
just-
HR, and then hopefully you all have had enough data that you can, we're gonna go back, Finance Committee, and make our recommendation on the override budget, and send that over to you very quickly. We've, had the benefit of kind of, this is our second time through, so I think we're gonna be able to move pretty quickly. We'll certainly let you know when we'll be doing those votes, if any of you want to, key in and see if you have any other questions. But hopefully we'll get finished up next week and on your 2 meetings a week schedule. And seems familiar to you though, Fernando.
Yes.
And and we'll be able to get you our recommendations so that you can move ahead with the article and take a look at that. Sound good?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, great.
And hopefully you have, as always, if you have any questions that occur to you, let us know. And but next week will be the last time that we have this type of forum. So if there are any questions or on previous presenters, now would be the time so we could give them an opportunity to come back if needed to talk to you.
Can I just,
Not that you can't have them come to your meeting, but
right, can I have maybe a conversation amongst my fellow select board? As Betsy mentioned at the beginning, I think the school's budget, they turned up and they had a conversation, but we didn't actually go through a slide pack or information pack. I know they gave us the book for us to take a look at, and I've gone through it. And I was just wondering, select board members, do we want to have the schools either come back to the select board itself or attend this meeting and kind of go through the balanced budget and then the override budget? Just a question.
Just wondering, do you think it would be I personally don't feel like I need them for
Okay.
myself, but I'm wondering if is it something that would be beneficial to, citizens in general? I don't know.
they've done it publicly about 3 times.
Yeah. And I think she did, a great presentation on the fly, so.
She did a great presentation. I
I didn't even feel like it was on the fly because
No.
obviously she answered every question
That's
and
right.
she was quite capable on that.
Well, I think they were all here. They were probably expecting, I
Well-
would imagine they were expecting to
Yes,
present.
yeah, and which was why we took opportunity. The whole, the whole board was here, plus the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, so it made sense. But she was at a bit of a disadvantage as that it wasn't, a week's notice, whatever, but
Right?
barely, I certainly didn't notice any disadvantage because they did a great job. I would be, we're happy to, and I'm sure they'd be happy to come back as well, but they have done a number of public presentations. It's also, they've got it on film on their website, and also if you, on our website for the override, there's their presentation, but if you go to the school committee website, you can see the filming of any of their presentations as well, for the public.
Yeah, I don't think I need to hear from them again. We all read the voluminous binder.
Yep. Yep.
We passed around Mr. Microphone.
Yep.
I think
Dana.
Yep.
Danielle answered all the questions I had.
I just wanted to,
Yeah.
double check, so, okay, good. We're all in a good place with the schools then. Wonderful.
And they've also been great when, kudos, Fernando has been taking his show on the road with, I've been with him, but the schools have also come, the superintendent came to the Council on Aging and a presentation this week and has committed to going to whatever anybody wants for Q&A, that somebody will be there, whether it be the superintendent, her business manager, or somebody from the school committee. So they've been very active participants with the public on fielding questions.
There's another public forum scheduled for next Tuesday, the 4th of February. It's at the Mary Room in the Free Library, and I'll be there. I think, Betsy, you'll be there, and I know Danielle Klingerman will also be there. I know Mary will be there. So is another opportunity for the public, hopefully listening in, to come along to Mary Room and join in the Q&A afterwards, so.
We'll be posting meetings that we have scheduled, that on the website. And, you know, there's a number of them that will be forthcoming at Q&As just for.
If I may,
Pardon me?
on that note,
Yep.
there will be 2 additional public meetings that we're going to have at the Black Box, the presentation theater in the high school. Those will be on February 12th and February 26th. I believe they'll start at either 6 or 6:30. We're putting the announcement out, but it'll be the Fernando show. Where you can come and, pardon?
Are you gonna put it in the
Yes.
paper? Okay, great.
Yeah, I'll be announcing it again on Monday once we have the actual flyer done and all that stuff. So the February 12th and 26th.
And what time is it at the Mary Room next week?
I think it's
5:45.
5:45.
5:45, so
5:45?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a little late next week, from that, so,
Yeah.
Fran, you own the next Tuesday or next Thursday night.
Next Tuesday. or Saturday.
So on the 4th, because I have to go with Fernando to the Murray Room.
Should we post later? Because we're all going to be there.
Well, the finance committee won't be there. Fernando and I will be there, but
So will I and so will she.
So how about if we take that offline and we'll deal with logistics
Yeah.
after we finish? How's that?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
The bottom line is there's going to be lots of opportunity between now and the March annual town meeting for people to get themselves informed so they can make an informed decision in March. So if you're listening out there, please take advantage of those opportunities. There's a lot of good information and an opportunity for you to ask questions and deepen your understanding of what the impact is to the town and the impact, more importantly, to your tax bill. So please take the opportunity to come along.
I would, if I could just say, would especially encourage people who are, have real concerns about the override, to come in person, if possible,
Right.
to some of these presentations so they can ask questions and get, good solid answers.
Yes. Thank you, Cindy.
And one of the important things that came up at a previous meeting was the presentation at town meeting and being able to go through the budget line item by line item. And that is how it will occur at town meeting. So we'll go through the
5A.
5A and then 5B. So, and I think Cindy's right. If you have questions, try to get as much information as you can about a particular area of the budget that you may not be in agreement with or may not understand or may not, but town meeting will have the ability to go line item by line item.
It was unbelievable. We had a great meeting here at the Council on Aging. A lot of members from the group that's supporting the Livable Duxbury Committee that's been formed here. And it always strikes me that, we live and breathe this stuff, so we make assumptions. And one of the people that was in the audience had no idea that that the school parents have to pay for the bus anymore, because their kids never paid to get on the bus, and now they have to pay, what was it, $250 for them to take on the bus, or that they have to pay to play sports. Their kids didn't have to pay to play sports. And all of a sudden, when we started adding up all the things that kids do in high school, you have 2 kids, it's $1,000 of fees that people are contributing to in the schools, and they just didn't know. And why should they? But it's good information for them to have when they're weighing their options.
I
So-
pay that bus fee. And there's no sidewalks near me, so.
No, exactly right. All right, we all set. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
All those in favor? Beautiful. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.